Cashew here with the DMV.
Has concluded.
The DMVSTREAM.COM player.
Sean Parker along with Nick Iverson.
I always wanted to play volleyball in college.
Cordova trying to dig it out of the board. And they score!
Hey guys, I'm Matt Present, your host for the Prep Zone. Welcome on in. I'm joined today by Chris Jolly of NovaHoops.com and Ben Simon, who does the play-by-play over at South Lakes. Guys, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Great to be here.
Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. So last week we started off something new where we had everyone come on and say the best thing they saw this week. So what is that for you, Chris?
Well, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm from Milwaukee, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention my Packers. But there's been a lot of good high school hoops action, and you can see that without having to pay $1,000 for an NFL ticket. So,
No doubt, no doubt. I think the most impressive thing for me was watching a freshman make her first career start last night. That'd be Rachel Ross of Hayfield. She had a great game and actually really impressed me. So yeah, I think that's awesome that she got the confidence of the coach to go out there. She even got moved back to JV a little bit to get some more minutes. He threw her out there and they came out with the W.
Guys, for me, I'd have to go with Caps Penguins this week. Certainly wasn't the result I was hoping for, but what an entertaining game and really good for the sport of hockey. And that's something that we here at DMV Stream are starting to get a little bit into more and more. We had the Purple Puck a couple weeks ago, and we're going to have some more hockey coming up as well. So some good basketball that we're going to get to on this show, but we're now diving into hockey and some swimming as well. But here's what's coming up on the show today. We got St. Stephen's and St. Agnes against Episcopal. Guys, an overtime doesn't say enough about this game. There were 3 of them. Another overtime game we'll talk about as well as Hayfield and South Lakes. Potomac against Freedom as well. A lot of recaps coming your way today. We also have Chantilly and Herndon, the girls, Fairfax and Langley as well, and then West Potomac and Annandale back on the boys' side. We got a couple previews coming your way too. Robinson and Herndon, Oakton and Centerville. A lot of good basketball today. We're pretty much focusing more on the Northern Virginia side of things. That's where you guys are centered. So we have you on. We have these games for you to talk about. And here's where you can find us. Live right now on Facebook Live, DMVSTREAM.COM. You can find the show on demand as well as all of our previous episodes. And then you can also watch us live on TV. Local TV in Northern Virginia. So happy to have you along with us. We'll get right into the nitty-gritty shortly, but first, BJ Kubaroulas is going to tell us how you can get your play featured on our Top 10 Countdown.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an all-new season of Top Plays here at AllNetSports.com and WashingtonPost.com. I'm BJ Kubaroulas. All right, like the previous 3 seasons, we're continuing our exciting interactive high school basketball show, a show that allows you, parents, coaches, players, and fans, to send in your video submissions for ranking in our Top 10 style weekly show. Each week, we'll reveal the latest highlights, dunks, sweet assists, and bizarre happenings from across the region. All you gotta do is tweet me the link. I'm at BJKoob, and remember, you gotta hashtag it AllNets. You can send in your Huddle, YouTube, Vimeo, really any video link, and we'll consider it for use in the upcoming episode of Top Plays. Remember to tune in every Monday to see if your video made it at allnetsports.com. We'll see you soon.
All right, so there are a few games this week that lack no excitement. I mean, you didn't have to build these games up. And where we start is at the top of that list, a triple overtime thriller, Chris, and that was St. Stephen's, St. Agnes, and Episcopal.
I mean, I wandered into a coffee shop the next morning in Alexandria, and they were still talking about this game. It was insane. It was 3 overtimes in a packed gym at Episcopal. All the credit in the world to both these teams, first of all. I mean, St. Stephen's, St. Agnes has been on a little bit of a roll lately since the Herndon Holiday Hoops Classic, which they won over the holidays, defeating Herndon. They can hurt you in so many ways. They can hurt you inside and out. Denmark Slay, Dom Bailey. In this game, however, they had a lot of help from, Jared White, who areas, you see him going to the hoop there, taking to the hoop. This is only a sophomore, another one of the region's fantastic sophomores. that can hurt you in a lot of ways. He can hurt you inside and outside. He's a big guard that can post up. If you take a look at the footage here, when there finally was a victory, kids were a little excited, as you can see. It was just, I mean, it was a fantastic game. You can't write it any better than it turned out. Both teams showed enormous resilience. Episcopal at the end of regulation to claw their way back from double digits to get right back into it. And credit Episcopal too. I keep shouting out Episcopal. St. Stephen's, St. Agnes won the game, and they're in control now of their division. But Episcopal went on the road the very next day down to Charlottesville and beat Woodbury Forest. I mean, these kids are resilient.
And how about George Mwanda Kalema? 34 points, a game high. I mean, he comes out on the losing side of things, but what impressed you about him?
I mean, he's another guy that can do it all, and he's a student of the game. I mean, that's what he's got height, but he can hurt you outside as well. Plays great defense, just gives it his all constantly. And Episcopal, he's been a real leader for that team this year.
You saw a second ago on the screen, Jared White, the guy that Chris mentioned, also on the winning side of things. We keep talking about Episcopal.
I know.
St. Stephen, St. Agnes, a big triple overtime win, but they had 4 guys in double figures, and a resilient team on that side of things as well, because they played 84 minutes over the course of that week. They played a double overtime game against Prep too.
Unbelievable. I mean, and this is a team in the true sense of the word under Ronald Ginyard Jr. They hurt you from inside, they hurt you from outside. They help each other out. Denmark Slay is probably the highlight name on that team. He's going to High Point next year. But he gets his teammates involved first and foremost, and they do it on the defensive end. I talked to them after they won the Herndon Holiday Hoops Classic, and their assistant coach, Mike Jones, I got to talk to him. They do it. They pride themselves on defense first, and they beat you as a team. It's really remarkable how they've gotten guys that are flashy, guys that could be stars, to kind of buy into that team concept over there. It's been impressive.
All right, so we start out with triple overtime. Ben, now you get to talk about double overtime with Hayfield and South Lakes.
South Lakes versus Hayfield was fantastic. Really wish I could have been there. I was watching and calling the game for the girls, but I mean, so many great players out there, and we even saw a 30-plus point effort from Langston Gaither, but South Lakes had won 6 in a row going into that game, and Hayfield had won 4 in a row and 7 of their last 8. So 2 hot teams coming together in Alexandria, Virginia. And the entire South Lake starting lineup, they all had at least 13 points, led by Marcus Cherry with 22. For Hayfield, Jamori Robinson, DeMonte Richardson, and Cameron Wilkerson all had at least 8. But really the big play, which we're going to see in a little bit, was the tip-in after a half-court shot really brought that game into overtime right here. I mean, look at that. That's unbelievable.
And watch it hang on the rim, too.
Oh, absolute heartbreak for South Lakes at that point, because they had come back after a serious halftime deficit, and right there was Brian Cobbs with the game winner, a step-back fadeaway three-pointer with 3 seconds left. Hayfield improved to 13-3. South Lakes dropped to 10-5. Those 2 teams still at the top of their conference, right in the top half. So I talked to Coach Duggan a little bit after the game, and he said he's going to use this as kind of a motivation tool. They had a good practice today, South Lakes did, and they're hoping to come back. They play Langley coming right up.
To kind of draw the parallel here, though, we talked about a triple overtime game, now a double overtime game. We keep wanting to talk about the resilience of the losing team, and not wrongly so. I mean, they came back from a 13-point deficit, did South Lakes, in the 4th quarter. What led to that? What led to them getting back in the game and then ultimately coming up just short?
Well, I mean, all of their starters do contribute to the game, but Aguirre, I hear he had foul trouble throughout the second half. Marcus Cherry is their standout scorer for the most part, the PVI transfer who's been really just doing it all for them. But when you talk to Coach Duggan, the one person who does stand out is Cameron Savage, whether he's getting the assists or those quote-unquote hockey assists where he's passing it to the guy who really makes the dish. I mean, he had a fantastic game as well. Andrew Powers went over his normal scoring average. He's their stretch 4, brings some solid defense, and really developed an AAU over the summer and can shoot it from the top of the key as well. But I mean, that's South Lakes for you. And Damon Johnson, of course, their point guard with the mohawk. Very nice.
All right, so we're going to tell you guys that, in fact, you don't need double overtime or triple overtime to have a thrilling win. Chantilly and Herndon girls, they did it as well. A fantastic finish over there. 57-56 the final in the final seconds of the game.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. I mean, Chantilly led by 12 late and blew it, really. Herndon started making free throws. Herndon is a very athletic team. Started getting to the line, clawed their way back, and it took a big Mary Clarkey, there you go, 3-point shot as she was getting fouled to complete the 4-point play and essentially seal the victory. Chantilly, this was a huge game because this was for control of the Concord, the old Concord district, as it were. And Chantilly came up big. Chantilly is a very versatile, dangerous team. They like to spread you out. They have some height, but they all play like guards. And, you know, in this day and age of 4 and 5 guards, Chantilly does that, but they have the height to hurt you. And it's headlined by Mary, who is going to Lehigh next year. And she can get you from inside. She can get you from outside. She plays good defense. And Chantilly took control, albeit very briefly, because they just lost to Oakton yesterday. Oakton, who's returning some starters yesterday. But that conference is just cutthroat on top with Chantilly, Herndon, and Oakton. 3 teams that can win the region, as far as I'm concerned. And 3 teams that very well, you know, unfortunately because of seeding, they won't all be able to go to states, likely.
Right.
But these are 3 teams that are as good as any public schools around the region.
You mentioned Clarity, 26 points, including that go-ahead 4-point play. As a coach on the other team, you hate to see it, right?
Yeah.
What are you, a former coach, Chris, what are you telling your team after they give up a 4-point play? How can that be a learning experience?
Well, it simply is a learning experience. I mean, you never foul a jump shooter. You certainly don't foul her in that situation for a 3-point shot. But then again, at that level, you don't expect her to bury the 3-point shot as you're closing out on defense. It was a nice play by Chantilly, and it's just one of those things. And I know Herndon, I talk to their coaches a lot. They're going to be chomping at the bit for a rematch, so they're going to be just fine. I mean, they're a talented, unbelievable team. It's got to be a learning experience, and every coach, I've been around the region a lot, every coach is telling me, hey, now doesn't matter so much. It just matters where we are in a month. So we'll see.
Certainly, and it was really nice to see that she hit all her free throws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with these high school players, really, sometimes it's about the focus, and those free throws determine whether you win or lose.
Yeah.
And all that is just practice and focus and, you know, having ice cold blood. But, I mean, that was really impressive to me, the fact that she can hit those threes, and at the free throw line, she makes the clutch, cool, calm, collected buckets. So, and it led to the 1-point victory.
It's been unbelievable in the last few weeks. We've seen, at least she's a senior. I've seen some sophomores do it this week. I've seen some freshmen do it. I don't know how these kids are doing it.
Well, it's certainly fun. A couple double and triple overtime thrillers. This one coming down to the wire, but Ben, a perfect segue, because we're going to talk about a game shortly that really was decided in large part at the free throw line. But first, we're going to go to your superlatives. It's Simon's superlatives right here on DMV Stream.
Hello, Ben Simon of Ben Simon Broadcast. I've seen a few games this year. I've called a few as well. And here are some of the superlatives I want to hand out to some of the players that have impressed me most. First, let's start with the freshmen, Chase Ackerman and Josh Abtu of the Fairfax Rebels. Chase Ackerman, he does drive to the lane, he gets rebounds, and he can fade away in the mid-range, really like his game. Josh Abtu, a developing point guard for the Rebels, he starts He's known to turn the ball over in press coverage a little bit, but I really think that he'll develop his shot over time and he can distribute the ball as well. Anthony Reyes, Washington Lee, when they played South Lakes, he did not look like a freshman out there. Played against South Lakes and had a very good game. Smooth stroke next to Nicky Miller out there for the Generals. The best scorers, there's a lot of candidates out there, but got to start with Marcus Cherry, who's averaging close to 20 points per game. His hang time is ridiculous. He shoots a three every once in a while, but he can really get to the hoop at will. Very impressive player. Paul VI transfer there. Nicky Miller, he was so impressive to me in that Washington Lee South Lakes game. Is a gritty.
All right, we're back here on the Weekend Rewind. Again, I'm with Chris Jolly and Ben Simon, and you can see the rest of Ben's segment on our website, DMVSTREAM.COM, as he hands out his area superlatives. But we got to move on because we got a bunch more good games to get to, one of which is Potomac and Freedom. Chris, what went down in this one?
Well, Potomac's our #1 team in the rankings we do every week, and Potomac, basically, Coach of Potomac
And
told
that's
me
why on
after
the
the game
girls.
that they get the best shot from their opponents, and Freedom went up 23-14 on these guys, just draining threes left and right. It was incredible. But then two guys really stepped up for Potomac. Nana Opoku, who had an unbelievable stat line. There's Jamal Washington going. He just had 31 points. That was the second best performance for Potomac that night. Nana, who I got to meet after the game, phenomenal young kid. Let's go, 32 points, 11 rebounds, 10 blocks.
What?
When I asked him, it was absurd. When I asked him after the game if that was the best game he's ever played, he just kind of laughed. He said, by a mile. And it was really a testament to Potomac because Freedom is a very dangerous team that can shoot the three. There you go. There's Nana going to the rim. He did that constantly. His stat line, he made 13 of 14 shots. Potomac made 22 of 24 free throws at the line.
Wow.
You want to talk about ice?
Yeah.
These guys were ice. I mean, I don't know they've taken the best shots from teams around the region, and if a team's making 22 of 24 free throws with two guys scoring over 30 points a game, they're going to be a little tough to beat, I think.
Yeah, that leads to 90 points.
Yes, it does. It led to 90 points, and it was an incredible performance. I wish I could have videotaped some of those dunks. You guys did a phenomenal job getting that footage. But it was an incredible atmosphere, sold-out house, and I mean, again, got my money's worth.
But to Ben's point as well, you talked about the free throws, 22 of 24 for Potomac. On the other side of things, not so great. Freedom, 8 of 15. Didn't entirely decide the game, but it really goes to show you the better teams make their free throws.
They really do, and I can talk about Freedom's resiliency. They were resilient, but they didn't get it done. Potomac absolutely got it done, and they said after the game, Potomac said, heart of a champion. And I have to agree. How can you disagree with them when they're doing that in crunch time? It was an unbelievable performance by Nana Opoku, who's going to Mount St. Mary's. And I became an instant fan. I had only seen, that was the second time I'd seen him. I'm going to be rooting for him next year in college.
He was 6 of 6 from the charity stripe. We go from Potomac to West Potomac, Ben. They topped Annandale.
They sure did. West Potomac came in at 11-2. Annandale was 7-5. They had lost 3 in a row, but West Potomac really came out strong. They won the first quarter 11-3, and that really proved enough to carry them through the rest of the game, as pretty much the second, third, and fourth quarters were all very close. The second and third quarters were ties, and West Potomac lost the fourth quarter by only a point. But West Potomac's full court pressure was a lot to handle, and the crowd was very much into the game, as you can see on a few of those replays right there. Sophomore Daryl Mackey led West Potomac with 13 points, including a vicious slam to get the crowd going, and senior Dante Johnson had 21 for Annandale. West Potomac finds themselves at the top of their conference at 6-0. Annandale is third in that conference. They're 7-6 overall, but 1-4 in the conference. So, great game.
A lot of people say it's not how you start, but how you finish. Not the case in this game. West Potomac outscoring Annandale 11-3 in that first quarter. They really set the tone early.
Certainly, and I figure at home, that's when you really want to get the crowd going early, interact with them, make sure that they're going to be with you all through the rest of the game. So when it came time for the fourth quarter, they already knew that their team was ahead and they needed them most. So great job by West Potomac to finish it out at home in front of their home fans.
I'm also going to keep harping on free throws, especially because I'm the former coach here.
It's important.
50% or lower for both of these teams contributed a lot to a very low-scoring game.
Absolutely. I mean, I was at a game last night, a girls' game last night, Robinson and Centerville, where both coaches were lamenting down the stretch. They were like 4 of 12, 4 of 13 from the free throw line. It just, and in front of a packed house.
Right.
West Potomac the same way. You've seen them play over there. I've seen them play over there a couple times. The fans are into it. I mean, when the gym goes deadly silent at home, how can you not think, hey, I better not botch this. And these kids aren't botching it. Mackey is a sophomore down there, and he's doing a fantastic job.
There he is right there. 13 points, 2 from deep. Now, let's go back to this free throw thing real quick. As a former coach, what do you say to a player who's struggling at the free throw line? Because it's so much mental as it is physical.
Absolutely, and it goes to confidence. I mean, if you talk to any coach, and everything kind of goes back to confidence, and these kids have to have confidence. You just try to block everything out. You get into a routine. It's a routine you do every day. It's a routine so that you don't even think about it. These kids, the trick is not to think about it, but that takes game experience. And you just got to keep building these kids up. Just got to keep having them do it over and over in practice, and eventually, hopefully, it pays off on the big stage.
All right, one more recap to get to, Chris. Fairfax and Langley, a girls' matchup, and another really close game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fairfax is one of the most fascinating teams out there, the girls. They start 2 freshmen in the backcourt. Melanie George and Sam McNaughton, and they're fantastic. They're the most composed freshmen I've seen in a long time. But they have a lot of seniors that can also hurt you as well. Against Langley, Melanie George scored 15 points. That's almost half the points they scored against Langley to get the victory at Langley, 34-30, which was a mild upset because Langley is certainly one of the strongest teams around in the region. They did it through defense, though. Langley is comfortable to play at the low number. I've talked to Coach Pat Deegan, though. He wants to get out and run. But hey, he doesn't have to get out and run if he can slug out games in the 30s, which they did. The funny part is, in all these teams we're talking about, half of them lost the very next day because they're the night later in the week.
Next game, right?
Yeah, exactly, because there's so much, parity around the conference. Fairfax went out then and lost to a very solid, but not as good as Langley probably McLean team the next later in the week. I don't know why I keep saying the next night like it's the NBA, but they lost by 16 points to McLean. So that when you do start 2 freshmen in the backcourt, sometimes you get a little of that. But Fairfax, a team to watch. Nobody's going to want to play them in the regionals.
To your point, though, a very evenly matched game. Fairfax now 12-3 on the season. Langley 11-3. So a lot of parity, like you're saying, and a lot of close games. It's really good for the fans, really good for us here. Great entertainment. We're going to come back in just a moment with our weekly fast forward. Some good games to get you set for this upcoming week. But first, we take a look at DMV Stream's first dip in the pool. Hey guys, Matt Present here alongside Brent and Randolph, and we're going to get into some swimming from this past weekend. Now, as you guys know, DMV Stream is your source for all high school sports. But this past weekend, we took a bit of a dive, as you might say, into the pool and took on our first swimming meet. And it was a really fun event. Georgetown Prep, Landon, and DeMatha competing. And Brenton, you were there. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Matt, this was just an amazing atmosphere, especially for our first ever broadcast. There were just a ton of people there, and it was a lot of intensity from all 3 swimming teams, but there was one guy who stood out amongst the rest, and that was DeMatha's Sterling Smith. I mean, this guy was just an absolute beast in the water. He was just swimming. It just appeared like faster than anyone else out there, and he even came close to setting a record for DeMatha in the 50 freestyle. He did it in 21.04 seconds, which is the second fastest time in DeMatha's school history. And DeMatha's got a really long school history, so you know how amazing.
All right, see the rest of that recap and our complete swimming coverage on our website, DMVSTREAM.com. Now, from the pool back to the hardwood, Ben, Centerville and Oakton coming our way this week, a good matchup.
I think it'll be a great matchup. Oakton is 11-4 and Centerville is 10-6. Centerville's won 4 of their last 5, while Oakton, they're on a little bit of slide. They started out 10-1. They've lost 3 of their last 4, and that slide really started after a 1-point loss at Herndon. Oakton is led by Braden Johnson, who's scoring 16.3 points per game per Washington Post and is one of the best pure shooters in the region, a big guard at 6'4". They also have Jacob Pose, who contributes big time for them, averaging about 11.5 points per game. They came back down from double digits against Stonebridge, and we're going to see how they're going to respond after being tested after a hot start. Centerville, they're led by Bryce Douglas, the sophomore. He gets to the hole at will, had a huge game against Robinson in their 1-point win. And this Centerville team, they know how to win close games, including a 36-35 win against Westfield and a 46-45 win at Robinson. I think they're going to continue their tightrope back, and Centerville will win at Oakton on Friday.
All right, you mentioned Braden Johnson. Alex Harris broke down his game, a really good 3-point shooter. We're going to go right back to Alex Harris right now. We're going to go in the paint. He's going to break down a guy, a very talented player from Gonzaga, Chris Likes.
You have 2 guys next to Chris, one in the corner, and you've got Eddie Scott going to UPenn, and then the other right up there near the top of the key is Prentice Hub, who has offers from the likes of UVA, Villanova, Louisville. He's even had Kentucky in the gym this fall. So you're talking about 2 highly talented basketball players. So if you help off of them, it's easy for Chris to get them a bucket as well. Let's go ahead and roll this clip. Chris gets by the man easily. Now let's go ahead and pause right here. Now this...
Welcome back. We're in our weekly fast forward segment. One more game to get to, Chris. On the hardwood, local game, you know it well. It's Robinson and Herndon.
Yes, I watched Robinson last night. They had a 10-game winning streak snapped by Bryce Douglas and Centerville, a 1-point win. They go to Herndon now, and that's going to be this Concord District, which I'm going to call it until I die because I can't remember numbers. This Concord District is cutthroat. You mentioned Oakton. You mentioned now they go to Herndon. Herndon has been taking it on the chin lately at 6-9. There's the man right there. That's a big problem, though. There's Anthony Douglas in the post feeding it out. Robinson, again, one of these teams that I ranked very highly in the preseason that can hurt you inside and out. However, number 11 there, Tyler Jones, is having foot problems.
Oh, really?
And may need surgery. He's going to go see a specialist. Coach Hess last night said, you know, he's the heart and soul of our team. So that's trouble. It resulted in the 10-game winning streak snap last night by Centerville. Now they go into the House of Horrors, Herndon. And although Herndon hasn't been playing that well, Michael Griffin, Liam Harrington, they're tough to beat at home.
All right, so, Robinson, Herndon, who you got?
I got to go Robinson because I used to coach there.
Oh, man.
Sorry, can we have bias on camera? I can admit my bias,
We
right?
certainly have transparency, if nothing else.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're out of time on this edition of the Prep Zone. Thanks to Ben Simon and Chris Jolly for joining me. I'm your host, Matt Present, and we will see you next week.